The definition of accessibility is
Inclusion.
Inclusion
Inclusion.
means not only the basic ability to participate autonomously in services and activities.
Everyone,
Everyone.
no matter who they are,
living not just from your point of view.
To create the opportunity.
Opportunity.
The opportunity.
To benefit without having to feel like an other.
Whether it's because of a specific need or a preference.
Including people with all different kinds of abilities.
Breaking down barriers.
Is possible. But it shows that we as a society
Society.
value them as human beings and we value their contributions.
It made me think about accessibility more in a broader sense.
Recently, I've been thinking of it as
Designing products and products.
To have the same
Usable and functional.
Effectively communicate with each other.
It's really important here at 3Play
In our context,
Practice of making all the content we create.
to obtain the resources.
to things that we have in our society, such as videos,
information.
Artwork.
Or an educational experience.
making the product equally accessible to all people.
To consider when creating.
at its core, it really is about people and about connecting them.
So by the numbers, student disabilities make up 11% of students enrolled in college. The disabilities range from mobility to physical impairment to brain injury, blindness to mental illness. Many students may be eligible for accommodations, but do not seek them out due to a variety of reasons: stigma, lack of documentation, or they are unaware of the resources available to them. You may not be able to tell who those students are because the most prevalent form of disability on college campuses is a hidden or invisible disability. There are also faculty and staff, as well as parents, caretakers with disability that are working with and supporting those students. Disability touches every population and is very likely to touch each of us at some point in our lives, either it's a family member or ourselves personally. Accessible course material works the same way. For example, a captioned video is not only helpful to a student that is deaf or hard of hearing, but it can help a student trying to watch the video in a noisy public space, or help a student for which English is not their native language. So now we get to the accessibility versus accommodation. It's kind of how you separate kind of these factors when it comes to making content and making things available for students and the general public. Access is the ability to access something independently or without needing to ask for a modification. Think of this as being proactive, like I said, making your stuff accessible before you make it, not saying, oh, I'm gonna put it up here and wait to see if a student needs to have an accessible content, but you're just gonna go ahead and we're gonna make it proactive. We're gonna be proactive to ensure that all digital content is accessible. Making content accessible benefits all people, not just individuals with disabilities. Next, accommodation refers to making a modification for someone to gain access. Making accommodations is being reactive to ensuring that content or resources are accessible. So it goes back to that, what we mentioned earlier, the proactive versus reactive, making sure you do it from the beginning so that you don't have a student come to you or go to the disability services office to request an accommodation. And then we start to get into the universal design for learning, the multiple means of representation when you're making content. So the idea that you design content that could be used to the greatest extent possible by anyone, regardless of age, ability, disability. And the three main components are the multiple means of representation. So that's when students do not face barriers to accessing materials, their engagement increases. So when you have multiple ways to show what you're doing, the engagement of the students increases because there's no barrier and there's no ceiling that they're going to hit. Multiple means of engagement allow use of multiple tools and modes for students to communicate their knowledge. So as an instructor, you may have an assignment due. You can have them submit that assignment in a video. You can have them submit it as a document. You can have them submit artwork. You can have them submit MP3 or video content. So that allows a student that might left, right brain, if someone's brain works a certain way, they can submit their assignment in multiple ways, depending on how they express themselves. So that really allows the students not to have that barrier. And then multiple means of expression, making sure all students can access the materials by offering alternative to text, audio, and visual information. Any questions so far? No? Awesome. Now we get to the teeth of what makes universities, public institutions, government entities responsible to make sure their content is accessible. Section 504 prohibits discrimination on the basis of disability in programs and activities that receive federal funding. That's us, ASU. We receive a lot of federal funding for our programs, so we are bound to make sure that we make sure our content is accessible, and physical content, physical things as well, doors, ramps, elevators, things of that nature. Section 508 requires federal institutions to make their electronic and information technology accessible. And then Title II of the ADA prohibits discrimination on the basis of disability in all public entities, including public colleges, universities, regardless of whether they receive federal funding. And then Title III of the ADA prohibits discrimination on the basis of disability in places of public accommodation, including private and post-secondary institutions. So now, Canvas. This is where most of our content is stored, and making sure that we deliver that to students in the best way possible. So the Canvas standards are ensuring an accessible and pleasant experience to all users, regardless of disability, is a key element of Canvas. Canvas is designed so that screen reader users can confidently utilize their preferred screen reader and browser. So there's multiple screen readers that students may use to have visual impairments. There's a lot of different free ones. So, but Canvas allows all of those to work to read the content if it's made correctly. Now, the thing that is new to Canvas that does a really good job of letting you know what content you're creating is either accessible or not accessible is Ally. And it is a great tool that just lists and goes down through all of your content within Canvas and gives you a score rating on that content. So it's designed to make your content accessible for all learners. Your class is full of diverse students with unique learning abilities. Providing them with more accessible content means they can choose formats that work best for them. HTML usually works best for the screen readers and on mobile devices, electronic braille for the visually impaired, and audio for learning on the go. So Ally automatically scans your content and performs a series of steps to make them more accessible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my Ally dashboard, and we're going to kind of see how it works, because a lot of people will see the scores and stuff on their content and see if they're kind of wondering, what does that mean? So this is just my home sandbox where I do a little bit of playing around and adding content. So the first thing, this is my homepage. It's got the College of Integrative Sciences and Arts. And that's just a banner, that's just a photo. But what I see is this little meter showing that my accessibility score is low. So this is the first thing that kind of gives you an idea with Ally in Canvas to let you know if content is accessible or not. So if I just click on this, I can make a change to this content immediately. And what is cool, it gives you a breakdown of showing you what the issue is. So what this means, it's asking for image description, but it gives you a little brief description. Image description is something refers to alt text. It's a descriptive that when a screen reader reads over it, it'll read what that content, what you're trying to deliver with that content. So Ally allows me to go right in, and that just took the original name of my screenshot, but I don't want that to be a screenshot. I want to say image banner of College of Integrative Sciences and Arts. And I'll save that. Boom, perfect. So now I have 100% score on that image. So if I close this, now I see I have a green tab. And if a student has a screen reader in my course and they're just reading that, they can have a descriptive of what that image is. And that is something that's very, very important. Working with students with disability in my former role, the gratefulness of having these things was super important, because you don't want to feel like you're missing out as a student. You don't want to feel like just because of your impairment, you're not getting that same deliverable that your counterpart is. So that was the first thing. So that was a very easy one. And a lot of these are easy, but some of them are more complicated. So if I go through that now, I just know that was my first image. But if I want to see my total breakdown of my content and how it looks, I can go to this Ally dashboard in my settings or in my navigation, and I'll click there. And now I can get an overview of everything that is in my course and what the breakdown is. So I've got these images, I've got different documents that it shows that I might not be at the best when it comes to accessibility. So I have an image in here, so I'm gonna click that. You don't actually have to be at the location of where that image is to make it, to fix it. So this image right here, what would I put in here as an alt text if that was an image I put in my course? How would I describe that? Yeah, David.
Depends on if you like dogs or not, right? So you better.
Yeah.
But I actually attended a session with UTO specifically on just the tagging element yesterday, and we actually got into a long conversation about how we describe the images that we use, and we have to think about the purposes behind them, because it's very easy for us to inject our subjective interpretation of these that could really influence how a students can interpret it, especially if it's part of your assignments. We took a long time talking about language and things of that nature. So if I was doing this, it would, I don't know how useful color description is, to be quite honest, if that's something that or if we just talk about the objects and actions that are going on. So a golden retriever leaping after a Frisbee in the air on a sunny or on a clear skied afternoon on the grass, or something of that effect. Goodness, and that's kind of a long one too, because this gets it's time consuming. It's very labor intensive to do this.
It is. And that's why being proactive when you're doing it is a little bit easier than doing it retroactively and going back and fixing a bunch of content. Golden retriever reaching for let's say, leaping or Frisbee. In the grass. And like you say, it is very subjective in trying to, because again, what Dave may see versus what I may see is very subjective, but you're just trying to do your best to to describe what that, and if you're the instructor and that's what, and this has something to do with, nature or being outdoors, you can kind of mold it based upon what that image is trying to show in this context. But in a different context, it might be showing something different. So I hit add. Perfect. Close. And here's another one. Oh, that's just my avatar. So, and it also gives you the kind of instructions on how to write a good description. So again, we were kind of talking about like what's the best structure and what's the best way to do it. Provide a textual alternative. An image description should provide a textual alternative to the image so that people with a visual impairment can get equivalent experience. Descriptions also make it easier for all students to connect the image with the context. So just like what we were saying, it depends on what context you're putting in, what that image is trying to relay. A farmer standing in a field of yellow canola crops with a sign in the foreground reading, that's perfect for that. That is exactly what it is, but it could have been something different. Farmer looking off into the sky, knowing his crops are helping the environment. Now, if it was a climate change class, that might be what that was trying to relay. And you can also, there can be a decorative image that actually means nothing. It could just be something that is in that content that may not actually mean something. And you don't want to take that out because it might be, it might be visually appealing. You can make it just a decorative image and a screen reader will say decorative image. Now, also you can go into your files and wherever your content is located, it gives you that accessibility score. So it doesn't necessarily have to be in the Ally Manager. Wherever that content is at, it will give you this little dial. So what a lot of instructors I see previously kind of get in the habit of, say if it's a page or a document or a PDF, uploading that as an image. So if there's like some pages of text that you want your students to read, sometimes you may use this, instructors may use the scanning machine at their that they have access to, or taking a picture of that document. And in that case, that stuff comes out like this. So this is just a picture of a text that I read. This is a book about that I've been reading about using your athletic ability as you get older in life. Now, if I want to share that, I could share that, sure. And all of my students that may not need a screen reader can read that. They can read that whole page. Now, the key that you can know if a screen reader can read content is if you can click in there and you can put your cursor between the words. So if you just see that, oh, I can't click in there and my cursor doesn't go between halfway and through, you know that that's just an image. So I'm going to close that and I'm going to see how I can fix this. So it's telling me what this means. So that PDF is scanned. So it knows that that's just a scanned PDF that doesn't have the ability to be read by a screen reader. Now, this is when it comes to the actual technology and what we use to make things accessible. So I'm going to just go down here. Adobe Acrobat Pro is probably the best technology that we all have access to that can make PDFs and different documents accessible. Adobe Scan as well, and we'll show that later. Adobe Scan is something I can use on my phone and I can scan that document and it automatically turns an image to a text or a readable document, which is super neat. So I'm gonna just open up Adobe Acrobat.
Yeah, I just like one quick question or a comment on that. Maybe Nick can weigh in on this before you show it. If I'm remembering right, having the Pro edition of Adobe Acrobat is a license thing that we do have to request through the college. And I don't know if it's standard for everybody. And maybe that's changed. And I've had it on my computer because of my transition in positions. And sometimes I feel very lucky. So I don't know if that's the case. Nick may have frozen to death.
Yeah, sorry. I'm not sure what the licensing is for Pro, but I'll look it up real quick while I is showcasing this.
Yeah, hopefully everyone does have access to it because there's not too many other OCR readers that the level, and we have access to the Creative Cloud. So that's something I'll definitely look into and see if we have access to it, because asking instructors to make accessible content without that is pretty hard. So what I can do is I can go and I can open up my file in a Pro DC, and I can just open up that file. And the thing that runs a file and makes sure it's accessible is in Tools and the Action Wizard. So when you click on Action Wizard, you have this thing to make accessible. Let's see, Tools, Action Wizard, make accessible. Oh, I think I already did this document. And you have all of these things over here. Action Wizard, make accessible. So when you click make accessible, it's going to run it through a series of things. The first thing it's going to do is auto tag the document. Tagging the document gives a screen reader reading order to know where to start, where to go through that document. So the make accessible, and then you just click start and it'll walk you through the steps. It gives you a title. Title is very important. That lets the screen reader know this is the start of this paragraph or the start of this document, to let it know, okay, we're starting here and everything else is content after that. So you have the ability to go in and I can change that introduction title. You can put the title in and that's what the screen reader will read. You click OK. It gives it language. Language is very important because you can go and you can change it to whatever your students may need, but making that in English it would be your first thing, unless someone else requests a different language for that. So I hit OK. It's looking to for any fields or any fillable forms, and then this document doesn't have any. So I know that there's no fillable forms in this document, so I'm gonna hit no and skip this step. The reading language is English. Okay. Acrobat will detect all figures in this document, display any figures with missing alternative text. Perfect. There are no figures with alt text. If there was, it would allow me to put that alt text in an image within a document, so I wouldn't have to go and do it like we showed in Ally. It would already be there, but it already doesn't have any. Start checking. All right, so it checked and put this document through, which originally I said was just an image. It didn't have any. Now, the way I know that this worked, I can click in there, and now I can click in the text. And if I can click in the text, that means a screen reader can go through and see each letter, so it's no longer an image, which is what we want. So when I go back to my files in Canvas, I already reloaded this one. So that one that was just an image, you have to go to your original document. And that's what makes it a little bit more, you have to make sure you have your original content, because you have to go back to that one and change it and then re-upload it. So I re-uploaded it. It's with accessible. I put a new tag on it, a new name. So I know this is my accessible one. The original one was just this intro image. So now I know that my score is high because I just went through, it auto tagged it. It made it to where it was a readable document, and it also gave it language, and it put a title in it. So now when a student goes and reads this, it is no longer an image. They can read through it. So this is when it comes more on the technical end, but if you have Adobe Acrobat Pro and you need some assistance, I'm more than willing to help you kind of work through it and fix any documents that you think you're going to use. Another really neat thing. Oh, yeah, go ahead, David.
Question for you on this, because I've run into some challenges in doing this sort of call it translation in the past. And I'm actually glad you showed us that one button, because I was going through and doing tagging and text recognition and all of this, and it was taking me through like a proofing step, which drove me crazy. A challenge that I run into is if I'm using scanned documents that have graphs and charts and things like that in it, that this Adobe struggles with, and I don't know how to give the student a good version of that without, as I said, going through and doing word by word in the text recognition box on this. And I'm not quite sure what to do.
Yeah, so in the tools, when you go to accessibility, you have reading options, and you can, let's see, a reading order, I'm sorry. So if this was a document with tables and stuff like that, this allows you, with the reading order, you can click through and you can go through those tables. I don't know if maybe you can send me that and so I don't have any with tables, but when you go through reading order in accessibility, that allows you to go through, and each time you click on one of those tables, you give it a different, so it's going to be a heading 1, heading 2, and then you can kind of change with all of these things, and you can tag what each one of those columns in your table are, and that allows you to not have to go in and change it piece by piece.
Okay, I'll take a look at that, but I'll send one on to you.
Yeah, so that's accessibility, and the tools in Acrobat Pro, there's a lot of them, but the main one for accessibility is the actual accessibility tag and the action wizard. So if I click on accessibility, it gives me all of these things. It can check it. I can set the reading order, and that reading order is very important for tables and graphs. Auto tagging the document. That's usually the #1 thing that's messed up in a document, that it's not tagged in the proper order. And then all of these different things. So you can set the alternative text. So yeah, both of these two, that accessibility and the action wizard. What were you using previously when you went to, what'd you say when you went to use Pro, Dave?
Goodness, sorry, I'm on my laptop and I don't have my glasses, so I'm trying to read here. Well, you went to the action wizard, and I think I probably went directly to accessibility on the right-hand module, or that one there too. And then I think I was going through and using individual tools within that, as opposed to the action wizard, which I love. So that's a huge help.
Yeah, the action wizard, it brings up that do I detect any fillable forms or any fields, and it'll run through, the action wizard runs through every single one of those steps to be able to change that issue that you were saying. So the action wizard is the most in-depth fixing of it, to actually do it with something that might be an image or something like that. The accessibility is just kind of like tagging it and the basics. I guess that's how I describe it. And then you can also, then once you've organized those page, fix that, if you need to go in and organize a page and like take it out, maybe there's something that's left, you can go into the organized pages and delete any content that needs to come out. So now that you know that document is fixed, there's some other cool things that students and instructors can use that has alternative formats for reading content within Canvas. And that's this alternative formats thing right here. So if a student was clicking this file and they didn't want to just read it, or they needed some different ways to digest the content, the alternative formats is super neat. It gives HTML content for that file on MP3, so it'll read it out loud for the student, which is super neat. Electronic Braille. If a student has a visual impairment, they probably already have their own screen reader, but this is also one that's right within right within Canvas. EPUB, it's like reading like a ebook, which is super neat. If you just want to put, if you can have students just say, hey, this assignment that I gave you, you need to read this document. It's maybe 40 pages long. They can go here and they can do the audio version of EPUB and just put their headphones in or sit while they're eating dinner and have that read out loud to them, which is super beneficial. A translated version, a machine translated version of the original document. So yeah, this is really neat, that alternative formats within a document. Yeah. So let's go back. So the technical end of it, I just kind of wanted to show you just some ways to start. And like I say, I can always work with you if it gets more in depth and more challenging. But does anybody have any questions on using, you know, changing the structure of a document or anything like that? Sweet. So yeah, Ally changes. You can check, like we've shown, PDFs, accessible images, and things like that. Another thing that is super important, that is probably one of the more overlooked things when it comes to sending out content, is descriptive hyperlinks. So this is something that's very important for screen readers. If you're sending an email and someone says, hey, can you send me that link? Or there's a link in your course, and you might just put a link to something. So if you're trying to show a National Geographic link in your course, putting this in your Canvas course like this, it just makes it so, listen to a screen reader read it, you would get just annoyed just the one time. So it's going to read https://www, which is, and then it's going to read all of those letters, which is very frustrating for someone using a screen reader. So the easiest way to do that, to fix that for a student, is making it a descriptive hyperlink. So instead of that, you just want to, so I'm going to copy this link. This is the link I know I want to send out to someone. And it's pretty similar in all types of rich content editors, either in your email or in PowerPoint or in Canvas. You want to copy the link that you want to send someone to. So I'm going to copy this link. And I'm going to, instead of just sending that link, I'm going to type that actual phrase out. So I know that that's the National Geographic YouTube page. And I'm going to click this link up here, insert link. And I'm going to make that descriptive hyperlink. I'm going to make that a descriptive hyperlink. Apply. Now, instead of sending someone that long link that a screen reader will read, they'll be able to, it'll just read National Geographic YouTube page, which is so much better than having that read out loud for a student or anyone that is using a screen reader, which is super helpful. And then it's the same thing, it goes straight to that in the desert of that National Geographic page. So that's kind of a simple thing that I think is overlooked a lot when people are sending links back and forth, is not using a descriptive hyperlink. Now, when it comes to closed caption and things, there's so many different video resources that make sure that captioning is done in a video. YouTube has auto captioning, MediaAmp has captioning as well. And we're getting a new video service, Media Plus, but that's going to have captioning as well. So captioning your video content is super important for assisting with accessibility. And then these are just some of the things in etiquette in the classroom that maybe some people just don't know to think about. Like, don't ask people to disclose if they have a disability. You know, individuals' choice to disclose if they do, and it kind of can make putting yourself out there and saying that you need help, a little bit tougher for students that may not want to identify with having a disability or having to need extra assistance. So if requesting a note taker for someone, do not identify who the notes are for. They may volunteer that information, but again, it's their choice to disclose if they have a disability. Do not ask people what their disabilities are. Even though you may receive accommodation notice from I think it's SAIL, the long acronym. What's it called? Student Accessibility and Inclusive Learning Services. That's our disability services on ASU's campus. If you get an accommodation request, just you're not allowed to ask what the disability the person have, and because they have a choice to divulge that information if they'd like. Do not question the legitimacy of an accommodation. Each person with disability is different. People with the same disabilities may have different types of accommodations. Example, not all people are blind. Not all people that are blind use Braille, just as not all deaf people use American Sign Languages. Accommodations are determined on an individual basis by how highly qualified staff members. And yeah, and if you ever have any questions or you want to get more information from ASU provided services, the Student Accessibility and Inclusive Learning Services website has tons of content for faculty, for students, future students, the policies that we've kind of talked about that guide us in this accessibility journey. And like Dave went to some trainings. And there's a lot of trainings that I've noticed that are available at the in this office. So we'll just look at some. The 18th of this month, there is a training on the West Campus. Looks like it's to be determined. In the spring, there's some trainings and things of that nature. So if there's more things you'd like to see or request, it looks like there's a lot of trainings that are offered through the Student Accessibility and Inclusive Learning Services. So if a student asks and they need some accommodations, this is where you would send them. And there's also alternative formats and timed assessments if students need. They can go there and request all of that at this office. So that's pretty neat. And then, like I say, the last thing I kind of wanted to talk about is Adobe Scan. Do any of you upload PDF documents or things that you might take a photo of or anything using your phone by chance? No?
I haven't yet, but I'd like to learn how to do that. I always wondered, how could you do that with the phone?
Yeah, so if you have a Droid, you'd go to the Play Store. Or if you've got a iPhone, you'd go to the Apple Store or the on your phone, and you just look and you just search Adobe Scan, and it's so neat because if you whatever document you scan with Adobe Scan, let's just go. It's a PDF scanner, and it's like I say, it's for both Android and iPhones. And if once you download that, you'll see, and you just take a photo and you use your phone and you just scan a document. It'll put these little blue tabs, these little dots around an image, a picture, an image, a PDF file, anything that even has text. Even my notepad, if I want to upload some notes, I could take a picture of this, and as long as it fits within these little blue arrows, it converts that file to a readable document that you can save, or you can share a link out, and you can send that you can put that into your Canvas course, and it's probably one of the better apps that I use pretty frequently on my phone, like. Yeah, to even upload my, I was out of town, I had to upload in San Francisco, I had to use the Clear app to upload my vaccination card. I used that. It converted the lot number to text, and it was able to upload that to the website that read my vaccine card. So I was able to go to places that required you to be vaccinated. Or if I've uploaded documents to courses that I'm teaching, use that, and it'll take that and create that into a text. Like that intro one that I first showed, I just took a picture of it, that first introduction page. If I used Adobe Scan to do that, I wouldn't have had to go through the Adobe Acrobat Pro or anything like that to make that an accessible document. It automatically does it, which is super cool. So like I say, just look up this. If you find this logo, you know you're on Adobe Scan. Go ahead and download that on the App Store and just get to playing with it. It'll, I'm a techie, so I want to say it's life-changing, but it has been pretty beneficial for me.
Thank you, Isaac. That's really handy.
You're welcome. Yeah, that's probably, there's some native ones on your phone, but I just feel like I go to Adobe conferences, and I just feel like Adobe has mastered a lot of this OCR reading and a lot of things, and they've got it down to a science. So like I say, there's some native ones on your phone, but I think Adobe Scan is definitely the best. Yeah, so we've covered everything from the laws that govern us as a public institution to ensure that we are doing the things that we need to make sure that content is accessible, all of the things that govern us. Ally, which is super beneficial within our Canvas courses. Like I say, this Ally dashboard, you can go through and you can really get a sense of how your course looks. So it says my sandbox is 79% accurate. It's really hard to get 100% score because there are a lot of very tedious things when it comes to scanning and making sure stuff is accessible. But as long as you're in the green, you're doing a pretty good job. You know that you're giving it your best shot to make sure that your students are not going to have any issues when it comes to accessibility. So I've always told people that you can try to go for the 100% or the high percentage, but if you see green, a green percentage, you're doing a really good job. If you see red, and there's also orange, an orange dial, then you know that you probably need to make some fixes to the content that you have. Yeah, so does anyone have any questions when it comes to navigating through Canvas and fixing content, or any other questions relatable to that? No?
I definitely have a question.
Yeah.
So in my courses, I've always recorded a video for the students of my lecture, things like that. And then I've saved like the audio separate. I've typed up a transcript based on the, based on the video. From what I saw with Ally, where you can download those formats, does that mean that I don't have to do that anymore? Like, will Ally do that for me? Or is it still best practice to kind of separate them? So post the presentation, the video, the audio, and kind of the transcript separately?
I haven't done anything with posting transcripts because most of the software, so like if you put your video into YouTube and auto caption it, that will you can download that document out of it, that transcript document. The same thing with Zoom. So how are you getting that? How are you creating that transcript document? Is it pretty tedious when you do it?
It depends. I mean, I have downloaded them from YouTube before, but like what I'm saying is, like, would you post all of those items separately, or would you post kind of one thing and let Ally be able to download those additional formats?
I'd 100% let Ally do it, just because it is there at their fingertips. And then that is that's that time saver to where you're being proactive and not having to do that yourself. But if you do it, and when students click on that video or click on that link and has that alternative format, it's pretty much like a double they have it there along with what you created. So there's really no need to do that, to create those transcripts and have those in a separate place, because Ally is doing it for you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed with those though, and I had a class that I did last spring that I inherited from someone, and it was AV heavy, like really heavy, and it's old film, movies, music from back in the 1950s, and like the auto-generated stuff that would come out of YouTube, they wouldn't accept it at the disabilities folks, and so they were either having to transcribe it, or if it's the case of like lectures that I did, if I was recording them, I'd have the script, so I was sticking pretty close to that, and I could upload the the rich text format or plain text file version of that, and that was about a 98% solution, versus YouTube will be Siri trying to interpret what I say, so it's a real challenge with that, and sometimes they'll demand more than what the kind of automated tools will do.
So in that case, this is where I could, if you have some of that older content, I have software that I can change. I can update the file type of that video content. So this is a Wondershare Uniconverter. So if there's like an older video that needs to be brought up to where the MP3 content is better, the text, the audio to text will work, you can send me that, and I can convert that to a new 1080p MP4 format that it is making that text and that audio 10 times better than what it was in the older format. So if you have some of those videos, David, you can send me those, and I can run those through my software and make that a better version that is easily transcribable.
Fantastic, thank you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like I say, if you have, I know some of this stuff is a little bit tedious, and it can get kind of down in the weeds. And like, if you ever have, Rachel does that, she'll say, Isaiah, I have this document that I need to have ran through, and I'm pretty quick with it. I know that, teach a person to fish, no fish, no eat, one of those things. If I know you might want to do it yourself, but if you feel like you're not in time and it's a really important document or something, just send it to me, and I can get it done lickety split to where and put it back into your course, just because I've had to do it so much in my job. But if you just want to know the tools and you want to kind of be able to do it yourself, right within Canvas, there are a lot of things you can do without using Adobe, as long as you have the original. Like I say, with the alt text or the different formats, you can fix that yourself right within Canvas by just clicking on this. And then if you see you hit a roadblock, then you can just, you can reach out to me or try to navigate it yourself. Yeah, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. I want to thank you everyone for kind of jumping in and getting a little ideas on how they can help make their content accessible. Yeah.
Lance, I can finish in 3 minutes. He's done in 3 minutes. Hello? Hey, good job.
Thank you.
I have a question for you. It's not related, but thanks again for being here. Do you help us with streamlining a very long rubric? Something like that, or would that be like Canvas?
Oh, I do. Yeah, I do Canvas assistance as well. So you meaning like being able to click into and give points within your rubric, like in the speed grader and things like that?
I think I froze or you froze.
Oh, yeah, I can definitely help with creating and scaling down your rubrics that you use in the speed grader, that you click and give immediate points based upon the rubric that you created. Yeah,
they're
for sure.
in the class already, but they're really, and I'm sure other faculty on the line can agree. I have a couple that are really, really long that we're copied over. So maybe I'll look you up and we can maybe go through it.
Yeah, and if it's too long, it just kind of like defeats the purpose of using that rubric because it makes
Exactly.
you have to click so many more times. Yeah.
Yes. And I don't think the students are like looking through every detail. It's a five, not to use other people's time today. I appreciate people's time. I'm respecting people's time, but it's like 5 different fields in one rubric times 45 students. It's a technical writing course on digital. So I'll look you up and maybe we can just work through it.
Yeah, send me a link to that course and what that assignment is, and kind of so I can get an idea of what that looks like.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.